Hey, are you a business owner, entrepreneur, or professional? If so, we want you to apply to be a featured guest on our show. My name is Adam Torres, and I host the Mission Matters series of podcasts. I've recorded over 3,000 episodes, and we are just getting started. How do you know if you'd be a good guest to be on the show? Well, only one way to find out, and that's to apply, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We want guests that have a story to tell, guests with a brand, a product, or a service that can benefit my audience of listeners. If this sounds like you, go to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. I'd love to talk to you and get to know more about your story. Again, head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, now let's get into the show.
We are Mission Matters. We're a multimedia platform focused on the needs of entrepreneurs, executives, business owners, for our guests out there and all of our listeners that'll be tuning in. We highlight the needs of these entrepreneurs, and the way that we do it is we create really valuable content through, really, it's a lot of the guests that we bring on our show. And so we have a podcast where we've recorded over 3,500 episodes, and we published over 150 authors in various books. And with this week's episode is focused on trends and tips for 2021 and more ongoing content that we're going to put together. So with that, Adam's going to be moderating the panel.
All right. Thank you, Chirag. Yeah, I'm really just excited to learn from a lot of the other authors and really just see what everybody's been up to this year in terms of a lot of things have been changing. I know a lot of us are making the move to more of a virtual environment, and really, I would argue just for Mission Matters and what we've been doing, this has really been a year of systems and building out systems and the back end and really just figuring all of that out. And I guess just to maybe open this up for conversation. And again, this is not interview style or anything like that. This is just us having a good conversation and exchanging ideas and really just all getting better together. So I guess I'll just throw this one out there just to get us kicked off. What has everybody been doing this year? I mean, what stuck out to you as maybe a thing that has made a difference in either your business or that you've seen that's made a difference in the business or the lives of others? It could be technology, it could be a system, it could be anything. I'll throw that out there to the floor and see if anybody picks it up.
This is Kim Daly. Can you hear me?
I can, Kim. Hello, welcome.
Hey, thank you. So, I'm in the franchising industry, and I've seen unprecedented leadership, really controlling culture, managing expectations, helping, these small, many times first-time franchise owners just really stay open, reopen, adapt their business to survive. And we've seen amazing results. And I've never really been so proud. I mean, I've been in this industry for about 20 years, and it's been awesome to watch. And sadly, it's not every franchisor out there, but I'm connected to some of the best franchisors in the world. And I mean, that's why I have a business, right? To find the best of the best, the elite ones, the ones who really do care, the ones who really do help their business owners survive. It's been awesome.
And so, Kim, not to put you on the spot, and I know, but you do have a unique vantage point working with different people in terms of on the franchise side of things. What do you think is kind of made a difference that you've seen between some of the people that are maybe really succeeding going into 2021 after, an obviously unpredictable 2020, and maybe some people that are falling behind? Not to pick on anyone, but there's things that have to stick out from your vantage point, probably.
Yeah, well, I definitely think that when some people get paralyzed by the obstacle, other people see the opportunity. And a culture of abundance, a culture that comes from a place of, collectively we're stronger in a franchise, and just helping to control what people think, what they're talking about. I mean, I had a woman I placed into a yoga franchise in July of 2019. She opened her first studio. She bought the rights to build out 3 in Dallas. She opened the first one in February of 2020. She was forced closed in March.
Wow. Hold on. Can we just, for everybody that's listening to this, that February 2020, that's when everything basically hit. And that's when everything started to close down. That's you would argue, an interesting time to say the least, right?
She never saw it coming, right? Nobody did. So
Yeah.
she opens her first studio, her first business ever, leaving corporate America behind, follow her entrepreneurial dreams, and take control of her life. And a month in, she's forced closed. But get this, she's partnered with a very large franchisor that has 8 brands under their corporate umbrella. They're the largest fitness franchisor in the world. And why, if I'm leading people to fitness, I'm leading people to this particular company. So she reached her break-even membership when her doors were closed because they have a virtual Peloton-like model. Wow. And the franchisor, it was a corporate revenue stream, but after the doors were closed, the franchisor turned it around as a revenue stream for their franchisees so they can continue to draft membership dues.
Man, that's amazing. That's an amazing story.
It's unbelievable. 94% of their clubs drafted dues all the way through. And this company has thousands of clubs. That's like, for example, they own Club Pilates with 800 locations. They own Pure Barre with 600 locations. This Yoga 6 has about 400 locations. They own Cycle Bar, they own Stride, they own Row House, so they're a massive company. So here's a time when you would think, wow, fitness, you must be as dead in the water as restaurants. Mm-hmm. And she was Rookie of the Year during the pandemic. She reached her break-even membership within 3 months, and she actually broke ground on her second studio in September of 2020. Is that an unbelievable story?
Wow, amazing. And what would you attribute some of that to? Would you say that, like, obviously she's amazing. She Rookie of the Year, right? We get that, like, she's amazing, but talk a little bit more about maybe how the actual, like, the franchise decided to pivot. Cause that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, Adam, it all comes back to leadership. Their CEO he's incredibly positive. And it's just that spirit of confidence that makes all the difference in the world. It's like, we're not going to focus on what we can't control. We're going to focus on what we can control, right? We're going to look for the positives. We're going to look for the things that we still can do rather than putting our heads in the sand and focusing on all the things we can't do. But isn't that going to be true of success in anything in life? Right? When I built the largest franchise consulting business in the history of franchise consulting back in 2011, it was right coming out of the recession in 2008 and 2009. Stock market crashed. Everybody lost their 401k, which is how most people fund their franchise dreams. And there were a lot of people that do what I do that put their head in the sand and said, well, people don't have money, and that's where they focused, and that's what they made true. But I saw all the people who were being laid off, who I knew weren't going to be able to find a job and who were going to have to create one, and who would somehow figure out how to fund their business. And that was my breakout year. So some people, again, will stay focused on the obstacle, and other people will see it as an opportunity.
Wow, what an amazing story. Go ahead, Dr. Sorry.
Yeah, Kim, I think that's really great. And it's interesting, but in preparation for tonight, I thought about, like, what would be some trends that, might be important to talk about. And you actually mentioned quite a number of them in your story. So I'll just offer these 5 concepts just to see if we have any springboard that we can take from it. So one of the trends I have seen coming out of 20 into 21 is something that I refer to as stabilization. Some people like to call it the new normal. I call it the stabilization. It's when we have actually now decided officially that virtual is acceptable, so we can have virtual, in-person, and hybrid, which works really well because it means that the geographical lines that were once drawn in an organization are now more open for talent to be seen in other parts of the world, not just necessarily other parts of the country. One of the other things that also is happening is culturalization. And that is really stimulating our intellect regarding diversity and inclusion. And it isn't just the concept, like there's still a lot of rhetoric around the concept of doing it. It now needs to move toward actually putting action to the words and having something happen there. Equalization is occurring with more technology and with smaller startups introducing technology for bigger players, such as a fintech sort of venture. So we see that. Another one is the digitization of business that will allow companies to monetize what they're doing in a more efficient and effective way than what they have seen. And then the last one, which is the one you hit on about leadership, is visualization. And our brains cannot really handle when we say not. It doesn't understand the not aspect. That's why there is so much effort and energy placed on the positive and what you can do versus what you can't do. As soon as you start to frame words that say, I don't want to be like this, then the brain automatically focuses on the this, not on the other part, not on the opposite. So it's more powerful for you to speak in that positive, and certainly the examples you gave regarding what you can do. And the can part is, scientific. It's actually been proven in a number of areas. It's our belief system that allows us to overcome obstacles that sometimes would stop us from doing things. We're actually able to really bring ourselves forward. We see this happen in sports all the time with athletes who are talented, but they have a belief about their talent in such a way that it goes well beyond what their skill sets are, and they compensate for that. And I would suspect that in the story that you shared about the individual and her success, is that she believed. She really got into the point of believing it, and therefore all of her efforts and energies were focused on that positive, and that's the leader. And that visualization of success, not just, oh, I'm going to be successful, but what are the actions I need to take to be successful? And you have to visualize on that emotional connection, not just on the physical outcome, but on that mental part of it. So those were my thoughts for tonight's trends and tips.
That was awesome.
Oh, thank you.
All right. No, that's great, Dr. Troy. And welcome, Minji and Rock and Billy. Got to give you a shout out there. I haven't talked to you in so long, man. It's great to see your face over there. So Minji, Rock, just to kind of get you guys in here too. So we're just, we're really just seeing what kind of things other people are seeing in terms of in 2021 that are maybe making some of the difference. Can be technology, mindset, just really anything, just trying to get everybody involved here and maybe see what's going on. And Chirag, you feel free to chime in too. I don't know where you're at, if it's too loud or not, but definitely what I mentioned earlier for us just internally was really been all about systems and technology and building that out. So maybe I was, and this wouldn't be Chirag's fault, this would be my fault, by the way, a little bit more lax on some of the systems and building things out. And he's, kind of prodded me along to, we need to do this. We need to think about data. We need to, so that's been our year. I'm really interested to get everybody else and see what's going on in their year and, what happened, where they've been and where they're going. And Billy, again, it's so good to see you, man.
Yeah, hey, you too. I said hello, and I didn't realize I wasn't on as a speaker. So hello, and then I haven't talked to you in a long time, Adam. And then I see Antonio there. Hello, Antonio, my co-author. How you doing? He's on. Yeah, there you go.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. Good to see you guys. Good to see you guys. I popped on here because I got an invite just now from Chirag. I have something in 15 minutes, so I'll quickly, just because you're inviting me to do so, say that I see a difference actually. And I love what you guys are talking about tonight, but I see a difference already from 20 to 21. At least I feel it. And I see it in, my mother has unrelated to my sports program, my youth sports program. My mother has this facility maintenance company. She's 82 years old. And just a real quick bit. She's 82 years old and she's selling the company, and I'm helping her sell it these last 8 months. Nothing I've ever done in my life, a multi-million-dollar business. She crushed it out there from 50 to 82, 32 years. And I see this company that has about 50 employees. It had about 140 employees as of last year, but they downsized by design. And I see this difference from 20 to 21. The reason I mentioned that was this. And I see this positive notion that's going on. I see this masks are still on and distancing is still happening, but I see this life that's coming forth right now, and I'm really excited about it. And I think people are as well. And I think we're all getting back out there a little bit, have a little pep in our steps. I'm hearing it from the last forum I did here that we were on last week. I'm hearing it right now with you people. I'm seeing it through these people at my mother's company. And obviously you're watching the stocks and the trades and the presidential candidates and all of that. I think there's some excitement in the air, at least there is for me.
Man, I hear that in your voice, Bill. You got me all pumped up. I'm like, I want to do something too. This is exciting. Come on, man. What's going on? Where are we going, Coach?
I love it.
Oh, man. Antonio, great to see you, man. Great to have you on here. And anything that anybody else is seeing, what's going on? I want to see what other trends in different businesses. I know. So Minji, I know you're involved in entertainment. Are you feeling this pep in the stuff and some other things Billy's talking about? Like, be interesting to hear from your perspective also.
Hey everyone, glad to be back and talk with all of you guys. Trends and tips. I don't know if I would say pep and step. I think there's a lot of purposeful energy in the air. I think with the insane circus that was 2020 and kind of all the years preceding, a lot of the conversations I've been having. I work a lot in diversity and inclusion. That's been kind of the space that I've occupied for the last 12 years as a creative myself, as an actor and now a filmmaker, but also in running a nonprofit that focuses on diversity and inclusion. I think there's a lot more no one's tiptoeing anymore. You know what I mean? I think diversity and inclusion, at least in entertainment, it was always an issue. It was always a big elephant in the room, and now the elephant has been called out, and the trend has been towards acknowledging the lack of diversity, getting more women, LGBTQ, people of color into roles of leadership. So I feel like that conversation is obviously with Black Lives Matter, with all the anti-Asian violence that's happening. There's a lot of race politics that I think has really come into play, and not just race, but again, gender politics and people being homophobic and transphobic and all this stuff. Like, how can we bring our most authentic selves to work, to our, the roles that we play, to the actual things that we create? I think, in that way, it puts a pep in my step, because it's like the thing that I've been advocating for so long. And I feel like for a long time was falling on deaf ears, or just not even deaf ears. They'd just be like, oh, okay, that's nice. Unless it makes us money, we don't care. Or people would genuinely care, but they wouldn't really fight for it, And I think we kind of reached a tipping point where we, especially in entertainment, and people who are contributing so heavily to what the narrative is of the rest of the world consuming, there's a big stepping up, and there's a lot of people are just sick of how it's been going. We're not gonna, play nice or quiet anymore. Not to say we're gonna be hostile or antagonistic, but it's people aren't going to compromise the integrity of who they are and what they believe for the sake of trying to appease, an outdated system, if you will. And with the way that, streaming wars, I don't know if we would call it the streaming wars, but there's so many platforms, so many more opportunities for content to be seen now, ever more increasing. People aren't feeling as cornered, because they're like, well, if this network doesn't want me, then I'll just go to this other one, or I'll go here, or I'll put it on TikTok, or put it on Clubhouse. So that's exciting. I think just authenticity is really, really key. And I think people have a lot of BS radar. Honestly, it was just cut through and tell me what's real. Stop trying to sell me things. Stop trying to tell me what I'm supposed to like and what I want. Either tell me what you really think and who you really are, and don't play games. I feel like there's that vibe. I'm really excited by that, because especially for storytellers, we gotta I hope we can put something substantial out there.
Yeah, I love that you bring up the streaming wars, and I learned that it is a thing. Somebody else used it one day, and I just Googled it, and it's a thing, streaming wars. But I love your insight there too, because I was going to ask you. So there's so much content being created. So once upon a time, and it seems like as more and more channels come out, there's just more opportunity to create content. Have you kind of gotten that feel, or what's your perspective, because you're in the business?
Absolutely. For me, as being a woman of color, and I'm in the early stages of developing content. Granted, I have a lot of amazing connections to big networks and to Sony and to NBC and to Netflix because of the work I did with collaboration. I still consider myself a very, I haven't made very much, right? So I'm still in my mind, the bottom of the totem pole. The streaming wars is the Wild West. It has been the Wild West for years. We've been seeing it just with Netflix alone. how that has changed the game in terms of there was, the few power players that controlled everything. They controlled the narrative because everything was owned by a handful of channels, right? You had your CBS, you had your NBC, Disney owns everything, but like there's so much diversification, right? And there's still a lot of power plays that happen, mind you, but everyone's kind of just making their own space. And YouTube was a huge part of that too. And YouTube is still like, there's a clout war, I think, with like people who are content creators making a living off of creating content on YouTube. People have been doing that, on Snapchat, on TikTok. They make livings off of the content they make. And there's always kind of like clout chasing in Hollywood, but you can't deny the fact that there's so many ways to get your work out there. And if you are not Disney's cup of tea, that's fine. Maybe you're HBO's, and maybe you're not HBO, maybe you're a Netflix original. If you're not Netflix, maybe you're Amazon. I mean, opportunities is crazy. And so there's so much content that's being made, that's going to be made. I'm really excited for what's going to come out, because I think it's just a democratizing of content and speaking to what audiences really want, because now we have numbers to track what people are watching.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think more than anything else, it just comes down to data and attention. If you had to really stream it down, right? Because now you just have so many options. Whether are you going to watch Netflix, are you going to watch Disney, or are you going to spend time on Clubhouse like this, right? To learn. Are you going to watch YouTube videos? And I think what it's done more than anything else is just provided a lot more options. And I think it's more than anything else, just to Minji's point, I think really comes down to, I've been a data geek for the past like 10 plus years. I have a background in marketing even prior to partnering up with Adam here and launching Mission Matters. And it's interesting to see how everything is going digitally, and everything's just been amplified. There's my dad is as anti-tech as you can get. And now I'm helping him build his website because he needs to modernize his jewelry business. So there's just so many elements where everything is just becoming so tech heavy and tech ingrained. I think that's the one thing I've seen more than anything else, is seeing a lot of the older folks just almost being forced to become more tech savvy, seeing companies have to figure out their digital side of things more than anything else. And I think just the fact that we can't really meet each other in person, or we have to adapt that so much, we're on these platforms like Clubhouse or TikTok, and people are spending way more time there for good and bad, right? I think it comes down to people making the best use of their time, and that's, I think, what we're all fighting for, is just people's attention. That's the one thing I've seen more than anything, more now than ever before.
Minji, I wanted to ask you, do you think that for the streaming wars and for that, it's a lot of that has to do with the fact that we as a society have become less tolerant for the time that it takes to get something? I can remember, long in the past, people would write letters, snail mail, and today with email, and then now with not even waiting for information to come through even an intelligent design of a website, people would prefer to use an app to kind of get the information that they need. Do you think that has to do with the way we now demand the technology or demand the information?
Absolutely. I'm a definite millennial. I'm in my 30s, but I grew up in a time before internet was the status quo, right? I grew up, the internet kind of took off when I was an adolescent. And so there are kids now, and my friends have children that they don't know a world without internet. They don't know a world without devices. And I'm definitely one of the people that has griped about it, because I'm very I miss the days we didn't share a phone and I could just ride my bike and rollerblade somewhere, go to a park and play, and go to the library and read an actual book with pages and all of that. And I still have that appreciation. I think that there still are a lot of people who do. And it's up to us not to necessarily hate the technology or resent the technology, but figure out what our relationship with that technology is, and necessarily resent it, but it's an integral part of life right now. I think kind of denying that is to our detriment, in my opinion, because my parents, Chirag, my parents are really tech resistant too. Even though my dad's an engineer from Silicon Valley, he loves tech, but then he also doesn't want to, he resents the idea of spending all of his time on his laptop or phone, right? So, and he runs a small business. My parents have had a dry cleaners, and my brother and I have encouraged him, hey, why don't you guys make a website, create an opportunity for people to get your information more, go on Yelp, do all these, like, in our eyes, kind of minimal things to market yourself and be accessible and kind of meet the times. And they've totally denied it. They're like, we're good. Our customers love us. They'll find us. They can find us if they need it. We're not going to put money and time into that. And to be honest, they've done fine. Like, their customers do love them, and people refer people. And I mean, they haven't been swimming in money, but they haven't really valued it the same way. So I also think it comes to, like, us revealing our values and what people care about more. Is it about the dollars, about your time and convenience, right? And that's different for everybody. So.
Yeah, thanks. One of the things that, has always been fascinating to me is Dr. Tim Elmore wrote a book called Generation IY. And in it, he talked about the millennial generation be the first generation to surpass their parents in their use of technology, and he referred to them as being technology savvy. And from there, the next generation became what we refer to as technology dependent. And today, what I see as happening is being technology integrated. And it's all about our mindset and our use of it. And I think that in maybe your parents' example, don't know the situation exactly, so I'll just make an assertion here that it's the niche that they have. And so that niche for them will live through their timeline, and therefore it'll be fine. But if you apply to a larger company, to a larger, more organization that has a larger tap into the marketplace, then you look at the difference between Blockbuster and Netflix. And then you can make the correlation between the company that didn't think that technology would make a difference, that everyone was going to come and have their cup of coffee and come and just sort through discs and tapes and be comfortable with that, to find out that that's not really the way large market shares are going to happen. So I think it's a difference between, are you targeting a small homogenous market space where you can really tap into that, or if you're going after a much larger market, then you have to be more aware of larger trends and larger tips that are out.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I want to sit and stew on that for a bit. I'm curious what other people have been experiencing too when it comes to tech. I guess I work a lot with and have been around a lot of younger people, constantly in like the 18 to 35 range. So I feel like it's been very beneficial to always by default being in the know of like what the youngsters are up to and how I'm being becoming obsolete in my old ways. And there's this new thing on TikTok where Gen Z talks to millennials via TikTok. They make up all these memes and skits to make fun of each other. And oddly, it's creating some solidarity, because if you look in the comments, kind of having that self-deprecating humor of like, yeah, I'm old and I don't know what the heck you're talking about or what your trends are. There's kind of this appreciation and respect that's being built, oddly. I mean, I might be off. This is just in my TikTok feed, my algorithm. I'm curious what everyone else is witnessing in terms of like emerging trends.
Well, I mean, on my end, this was some of the main things that I wanted to cover, was just see what kind of things, any kind of tools anybody's using to stay connected. Like anything outside of the normal, maybe your normal Zoom, obviously, or anything like that. Are there any tools that anybody's been finding or utilizing or anything like that, just in general?
I think Slack has established itself as the platform for many, many businesses.
So Slack, anything else out there?
The good old-fashioned telephone.
Oh, that's it.
Get them, Kim.
Right up there. I'm savvy.
This telephone you speak of.
I'm starting to use something called Basecamp.
What is this device?
What is Basecamp, Billy?
Basecamp's a multi-level platform that gives you projects, calendar, everything, literally everything. There's a category, everything, progress, everyone, me, and then it's a Google Doc on steroids. So it's really, you can put a calendar in there, you can put your updates in there, shares it with anyone who's invited on the platform. And you can, just like this platform that we're on, you can utilize it multi-purpose. And it's brand new to me, just got introduced to me. So it's called Basecamp 2. Must be a second version of it.
Mission Matters, we use Trello. So I guess they're direct competitors. But I know there's Asana is another good one. Monday's another good one that I know a lot of companies use as well.
Yeah, I use Trello. I think Trello has become like the more granular task management. And then I think Slack has just become for many of the organizations I'm part of and film festivals that I participate in, it's become just a communication platform for people to share files and coordinate and have little rooms and chats for different topics.
I'm actually curious, when it comes to trade shows or events or film festivals or conferences, I guess, how are those evolving? Because like a lot of the ones that I used to go to, from CES to CES, to just the other shows maybe similar to that, I've seen a lot of different changes. I tried being a part of like CES and some of the different virtual events that they put together, but honestly, I thought it was a total fail. But I'm curious what others out there, if you guys have participated in any recent ones.
We've had a couple of franchise conventions over Zoom. They've actually been really fun. It's definitely not like being face to face and, hugging your friends that you've, been in business with for 15 years, but we made the best of it. And I guess it all probably depends on how much energy and time people are putting into, like, when you're going into different breakout rooms. They had collages of pictures from us from past events where we could remember when we were together, and they asked us for baby pictures, and they actually asked us to submit singing karaoke, or if you play an instrument, or and they had all these really like fun ways for us to get to know each other in ways that we wouldn't necessarily get to know each other, so I thought it was really creative, out of the box thinking, and it really made what could have been 3 very painful days go by kind of fast, and you sort of looked forward to those moments in between breakout sessions to see what they were going to put up next.
Thanks so much for sharing that. I have to give a quick little shout out. So, Daniel, how are you? It's been so long. So, I've known Daniel King, who just joined, since kindergarten or first grade. I think I've lost touch. I haven't talked to Daniel in over 10 years. And
hey, thanks for the shout out, Chirag. This is the beauty of Clubhouse. I feel like I've just been streaming from one room to the other, reconnecting with old friends who are doing incredible things and moving on and up from since kindergarten.
Yeah, I know. How's everything in the healthcare industry? And congrats on becoming a doctor, getting married, and life moves so fast.
Life does move fast. I mean, healthcare. We're doing things here. We're moving along. Just trying to, deal with the repercussions of COVID, and hopefully try to learn how to move on from the pandemic itself.
Well, thanks for everything that you're doing, and glad you could just join this. Cool. Well, with that, I guess any other last few questions here, or from anyone in the group, or Daniel, I know you just joined, but I guess if you want to know anything, Minji comes from the entertainment industry. Dr. Troy here, he does a lot of leadership related work. Also comes from the banking finance industry, and we've got a lot of diversity here. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask when it comes to tips, trends, or anything else that you might be interested in.
One emerging thing, Chirag, to answer your question about events and stuff, one cool platform that we just used for Sundance, because Sundance was completely virtual this year and a super spreader last year, apparently. We use this new platform called Remo. So I believe it's from China, but it's a really cool platform. It's like a Zoom on steroids. You can enter the platform and you go in with video and audio, but it's kind of this open floor space where you can actually network with people, so that you can sit at these tables, and they have multiple different layouts and formats. But once you are a subscribed member, you can host basically a networking event. And so it's to become like a virtual conference that you can actually see people. And so once you sit at a table, you are having video and audio chat with those people. I think it's limited to like 6 people per table, but you can bounce around and you can have your little avatar so you can see who's in the room. So it was pretty cool. We hosted our first Asian Pacific filmmakers experience at Sundance virtually at the end of January. And it was our first time using that platform, but it ended up being really great. We had originally put an hour aside to have this networking event after we did our, live stream of our panel discussions that we usually do live. And people ended up staying for about 3 hours. We started with 1 hour, and we just kept extending the room so people could stay and hang out. It was a lot like Clubhouse.
Oh, that platform looks cool. I just pulled it up. It says virtual summits, speed networking, virtual office, webinars, workshops. You were holding out on us, Minji. This is so cool. Remo, it's just remo.co.
Yeah, it's really cool. It is pretty pricey because depending on like how many people you want to host, I mean, it can get up there. It's like a few $100s a month, but it can be really useful. So if people have the cash, I know that there's companies, they just pay the year up front. So I think they pay between like $3,000 and $4,000 for the year to use that platform. But I think it served them because it lets them stay connected to other people and still do quote unquote face-to-face networking in light of the pandemic.
That's awesome. But appreciate everybody for coming on, and same time, same place next week. I know Chirag already has something queued up on the agenda. I know that the topic and all that stuff, if it's not already on Clubhouse, it'll be in our normal newsletter and go from there. So thank you, everyone.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. Thanks everyone for joining, and awesome catching up, Daniel.